In today's episode, we're building a real-time status monitor for my home lab and network using the surprisingly good and cheap HDMI screen I picked up on AliExpress. The home lab rack will get some very satisfying cleanup. Then we'll unbox the screen, get everything hooked up and working, and walk through the full setup of the software that powers the live dashboard. Let's get to it. Before we get started on the monitor, I just want to clean up this rack. It's been a long time coming. I'll talk you through what's in the rack right now before we get started. One of my favorite pieces of rack equipment is actually this Raritan KVM. It's been around more than 10 years. And once you get its application actually working, it's an older Java application, so it takes a little bit of hacking. It has a really cool user interface. It even has remote drive images, so you can connect an image while you're trying to boot a computer from the BIOS screen. You can actually see that I have one of the dongles connected just next to that tower computer. All the hardware works over Cat5. It's really easy to find the hardware. Even though the cheapest dongles are VGA only, it's really convenient just to put an HDMI to VGA converter on it. So below the Raritan KVM is actually a really nice serial server. I think it's from Avocent. I haven't had a chance to actually hook anything up to it yet, but it has a ridiculous number of ports. I'll probably never use all of them. Below that is a unifi Dream Machine. Very happy with the thing. You see these all over YouTube. We have the MikroTik below that. MikroTik is kind of the workhorse of this downstairs network. All the devices connect to this MikroTik with the exception of a couple of things that need PoE, which this doesn't currently handle. Below the MikroTik, I have my development server. This is the one I remote into to do most of my development work. I've got this 1U server that I've been debating about whether to keep or not. It's a dual Xeon system. It's pretty powerful. At one point in the past, I actually replaced a whole bunch of the fans with very quiet Noctua fan. Can barely hear it. It's one of the quieter parts of the rack. One of the problems is that it doesn't currently have rails. I do have a rail kit, and we're going to install that today. And below the 1U server, we've got this really nice Dell UPS that I picked up off Facebook Marketplace. I don't think I paid that much for it. I think maybe 50 bucks Canadian. This thing can run most of this stack for about 20 to 30 minutes. This thing has saved my life a couple of times during power outages. hunting and I found it. I wasn't sure exactly what kind of screen I wanted to use for monitoring. There's a whole bunch of options on AliExpress and Amazon they're all pretty cheap, but I wanted something just small, something I can put out of the way, something that will not take a lot of power, just basically work. So what I actually ended up with was this. This is I think a 7-inch screen I ordered. I think it was about 50 Canadian, so not terribly expensive. So let's take a look inside. The rest of the box just seems to be cables, and that's all it is. Just yeah, a very small screen. Yeah, 7 inches TFT. I need to find a slightly less sharp knife. I've only cut myself once on this, but I'm terrified that at some point I'm just going to cause some serious damage. And there it is. So, very small, kind of industrial feeling. I guess we should try and give it some power and see if this thing boots up. There it is. That was easy. Okay. No signal. Let's see. I think this should be showing what's on the Chromecast. Let me try to take the HDMI cable out. Anything? Let's you know what? I'm gonna give it HDMI first. Oh, okay, that was unexpected. Um, Interesting. So okay, that scared me. Uh, so if you plug the HDMI cable in, it just makes a very high-pitched squeal. Very interesting. Kind of terrifying. So I finally figured out what I was doing wrong. I plugged one of the inputs on the HDMI switch in instead of one of the outputs. I don't know why I made that terrible noise though. So this should be an output from the switch. Let's see. I think now we should be getting something. Still no signal. You know, I think this is a power issue. I I think it's just powering off because the button doesn't work, so it's probably just running out of juice. So let's give it a little more power. I got into the habit of labeling these things with the label maker so I can actually read them. Let's give this guy a shot. DC. Do we gamble on center positive? Uh, why not, right? Okay. So powered on, 12 volts. Let's actually see. Maybe this stay on long enough for me to actually. No, it didn't. Maybe uh, let's try giving it a pi. I don't understand why it's powering off so soon. That really doesn't make sense to me. And it dies in a way that it doesn't come back. Not really too worried about what's actually on this pi. I just need something that gives me HDMI. And hopefully HDMI that's not too complicated. Give me one sec. I'm gonna try it on the Mac, maybe Maybe I'll have better luck there. So I realized that I had this plugged into the wrong port on my HDMI switch. So this is now one of the outputs on this HDMI switch rather than an input. Let's see if this thing turns on when I plug it in. And what do we get? Hey, there we go. So this is basically just a mirror of what I'm seeing on the screen in front of me. So clearly it works. And you know, this is actually a nice screen. I'm I'm impressed. Uh, that's not even full brightness. Let's see how bright this thing can get. Oh, okay, no, that's kind of washing out. Turn the backlight. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this looks. It's yeah, 720p right now. I hooked it up to the MacBook and it showed 1080. So honestly, for a little tiny status screen, this is pretty awesome. And I think that it actually has audio, which is kind of strange. There's two things that look like speakers on the back here. Um, I'll have to see what that sounds like. So yeah, I can't complain. This for how little I paid, this is actually a really nice screen. Maybe a little dim off axis, but I can see this thing clear across a room. So this is exactly what I was hoping for. Something I can just sit on top of the server rack, plop it down on top and display something 24/7. And for like 50 bucks Canadian, I don't know, 30, 40 US, something like that. If it burns in with whatever's on the screen, it's not expensive enough to really care that much about. So this is working. So now it's just time to build the actual status monitor. And I think this is going to look really good when I finish this part of the project. Okay. I just want something really lightweight to monitor the home lab. I don't want to install a whole bunch of infrastructure here. So I'm going to use something called Stylus. It's a package that allows you to write some simple monitoring scripts and then display some visualizations that can just run continuously and give you at a glance information for your network. It's on GitHub, open source. It's really easy to install. Basically, just cargo install Stylus. And once that installs, we should be good to go. Okay, it's installed. Uh, It's actually really easy to start too. Just stylus in it. I already created this directory here, so we're just going to create a template project. You end up with a config YAML. This is a configuration for the actual monitoring server itself. You have individual monitors, one for each service that you want to monitor. There's a static folder just in case you want to include more complex visualizations or maybe embed other web pages within Stylus itself. Let's actually run this and see what happens. So let's run it, just stylus run. Okay, so it starts up, and then we switch to the browser, and you can see Stylus is running. The interface is really straightforward. There's a visualization tab and a monitors tab. So all the monitors that you've set up appear here, and all the visualizations that you've configured are available in this visualization tab. The one that we're going to be displaying on the screen is going to be the diagram. I think it looks kind of nice. It's going to be really cool just to be able to see the infrastructure at a glance. These diagrams use ISOFlow, which is a neat little networking visualization library. There's an open source editor called FOSSflow. The link is available in this example here. So one of the cool things is that you can see this dashboard updating in real time. So these are just changing as the monitors continue to run. None of these monitors are real. This is just the sample monitoring configuration, but you can see that you have a live view of your network infrastructure as everything refreshes. So the first thing we're going to do is build a diagram. Then we're going to write those monitors that will actually update the status for that diagram. I think the best place for me to start is probably just taking an inventory of everything that I want to monitor. I'm going to draw it out using ISOFlow. And I have an editor here for ISOFlow diagrams. It's called FOSSflow. Basically, it uses the same format that Stylus does. So I can just edit my diagram here in this editor, and then I'll be able to save it and load it straight into the monitoring tool. Let's start by diagramming the network. And I'm going to start with the internet itself. The fun part here is just getting to draw these little icons for everything. I guess what I can do is There we go. That'll be the internet. And we're going to give each of these a unique name that we're going to use for monitoring later. So start off with internet. We want our firewall here. And I'm going to call that unifi. Got a little arrow from here to here. We have the MikroTik router that I have there. We'll call that one MikroTik. We also have the home router that's in the closet behind me. That one. I'm going to add some monitoring for the Wi-Fi access points in the house too. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of these in-wall Wi-Fi adapters from Unifi. I've got a Plex/Unraid box in the downstairs. Let's add that as I think there's a bit, yeah, there's a nice server here. The other nice thing too with ISOFlow is we can create these boxes just to show separation between the internet and home. That's a rough diagram of what we're going to monitor, at least in this first pass. There's lots of stuff that I could be adding to this that I think for now, I just want to keep it kind of simple so that I don't spend tons of time working on this. So what we can do is, so everything is named as a name that's going to match our monitoring session. We're going to just export this and download. Okay. Next step is configuring Stylus on the Pi that's going to be running connected to the screen. Okay, so we've got the diagram ready. Now let's copy it into our Stylus folder. And we're going to copy it over top of the existing diagram that was in the template project. Okay, so now if we run this again, we should see that it updates with our new diagram. Looks like it's a little cut off at the top. I might have to reorganize this a little bit. You know what, we'll do that later. Okay, so you can see we've got this here. None of the statuses have updated. They're not actually configured right now. We're still monitoring these built-in ones. So let's start writing some monitors and we'll start hooking this up. The first one I'm going to set up is just going to be the internet monitor. This one is pretty straightforward. There are some more complicated monitors in Stylus, but for this internet test, I'm literally just going to ping Cloudflare's DNS, and we'll use that as a signal as to whether the internet's up or not. So we'll create a config YAML for the internet and a test script, which is just going to be ping. And as well, we only want to run a single page, and we want to make sure that it times out after a reasonable amount of time. We'll give it, let's say, 2 seconds, and we'll ping every 30 seconds. We have to make the shell script executable. And now we should be able to run. Okay, so now you can see that we added a new monitor here, and the monitor is available here under internet. You can see the log. Basically just every time it runs, it's going to ping the internet. Nice and easy. And this, because this was called internet, it automatically starts showing the green status underneath the cloud whenever the status changes. The rest of them don't have any backgrounds because we just haven't hooked those up yet. Let's get rid of these guys. I'm going to create one for the MikroTik router. This one's actually a pretty straightforward setup. The MikroTik supports something called SNMP, the Simple Network Monitoring Protocol. Stylus has the ability to monitor networking equipment like that and automatically show a status for the device and all of its ports. So it's actually reasonably simple to set this up. We just create a config YAML, and it's an SNMP style monitor. And we're just going to give the ports. It's going to be called MikroTik. And so each of the ports will be called MikroTik. We're going to do this every 30 seconds. We'll give it 30 seconds to respond. Now, the important thing is we just want to specify the host, which is 192. That's the router's address on my network. And SNMP needs these community strings if you don't have any sort of authentication, which a lot of home networks don't bother with. And that's it. That's going to be monitoring this thing. So now what I can do I can run it. And if we switch to the browser, we should see that the MikroTik shows up as one of the monitors. You can also see now that the MikroTik is green here. Each of these is going to be a port, one of the ports from the MikroTik itself, and they're also available here in this monitor list. You can see as it pings this MikroTik, it's getting the status for every single one of these ports. All the addresses, all the connection information, all the port information is available if you need it. So one of the things I'd like to set up is a rack visualizer, and the rack visualizer just gives you the status for all the ports in a visualization that kind of looks like a rack. So let me try to set that up, and I'll show you what that looks like. So we're just going to set up this layout, and the layout is basically is how the ports are arranged on the front. And the MikroTik has 3 groups of 4x2 ports, and then it just has a single SFP module to the right of that. Okay, so we're going to run that, go back to the web page, and you should now see a representation. This is the MikroTik. You can see every one of our ports is here. This works pretty well for a lot of SNMP devices. Some of them are going to require a little bit of configuration. So the next thing I'm going to do is add the unifi. Okay, I'll go back to the browser, and there's our unifi. Okay, so I'm just going to work through the rest of this configuration. Shouldn't take too much effort. Actually, I just noticed one problem, and that is because this has the word unifi, all of these unifi Wi-Fi routers are showing up as green. So I'm just going to rename this to Unifi Dream Machine. And after I do that, it should match all the Wi-Fi units as well. And we can just change that here. Call that Unifi Dream Machine. And we'll rename this Unifi Dream. Okay, and if we rerun it, now we can see that the Unifi is green, but the Wi-Fi modules are not. Okay, and now each of these Wi-Fi modules is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to start working through this, and I'll probably fast forward through most of it until I get these monitor scripts written. Okay, so I set up a monitor for each of these little unifi units, and they're all working except for the extender, which is actually not hooked up right now. So once I plug that in, that should turn green. You can see all of them showing up here, and I can ping each and every one of them. Great. Okay, so what's left? We have the home router, which is in the closet behind me. That's also SNMP. And we have the Unraid server down in the basement. So I'm going to add those very quickly. Okay, so I should have everything configured. Let's check out the browser and see what we're up against. Okay, so everything is working here. The home router, unfortunately, is very old. This thing takes a while for it to scan. It takes about 10, 20 seconds to read the status of everything. So fingers crossed, that should start working shortly. Oh, and I need to add that to the rack diagram as well. Oh, there it is. It just took a little bit of time. So add that to the rack. That's going to have to initialize again. But now you can see we have all of the servers in the rack. And we have a visualization that's working. Okay, so that's the diagram so far. I think I'm sure that I can clean this up a little bit. Let me go back, just try and fit this into something a little more suitable for the display screen that we're going to be using. Not too bad, a little bit crowded. I'll probably take a few passes at this trying to figure out how to organize it better, but overall it's a little bit more readable. Rack diagram looks good, I think. We have all the at a glance view of all the servers. And now I think it's time
to set up the screen.
All right, project is complete. The screen is set up, well, precariously balanced on top of my keyboard and monitor, but the dashboard is live and it's refreshing. You might actually see it refresh as I'm speaking here. To get this working, I needed to install two packages. The first was kiosk, and kiosk is a package for Raspberry Pi OS that allows the Raspberry Pi to boot up into a full screen web browser. You can provide it with some URLs, and then it will immediately show them full screen and just refresh them constantly. And that gives us our live dashboard. With kiosk, I just needed to provide it with the URL to the Stylus visualization, and you can get that by clicking the little full screen icon next to each visualization. I pop that in, and that's what we get. Second, I needed the SNMP tools for the dashboard because we're using those to refresh some of the networking gear here below. Getting those installed was a bit of a rite of passage. If you want to try it yourself, I'll leave some information in the description below to save you a little bit of a headache. A couple of devices are showing as red and offline. That's not a bug in Stylus. That's actually me rearranging the network and unfortunately forgetting to update this diagram. So it's actually showing the real status of my house, which means that a couple of devices are legitimately down. I'll get to that at some point in the future and fix this up, but for now, I guess that's some real-time honesty. Now, I do need to figure out where the screen is going to live long term. It's precariously balanced on top of this keyboard and monitor here. This obviously isn't going to be the long-term home for it. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'll find a Visa arm for it or something. Maybe I'll be able to bolt it to one of the holes in this rack so that it's permanently installed. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with that. That's going to be a later problem. Anyway, thanks again for watching. This is a small channel, so if you can like, subscribe, or drop a comment below, that'd be much appreciated. Really helps the channel grow. And speaking of comments, I do try to read all of them. So if you've got questions about Stylus, homelab monitoring, Raspberry Pi, SNMP, any of that stuff, leave it below and I'll do my best to answer. And now for the most important part of any screen project. Okay, now it's real. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Paleo Technica.